Hey, Luke here with catsandcarp.com, and me and my boy Tommy here, we're camping out on the boat and we're catching some great catfish. We're going to show you how we're doing it and all the tips and tactics and gear we're using, so you can do it too. Alrighty, shall we get this guy back in the water?
It looks like I just saw some little teeth.
Okay, I have a lot of people asking me about my boat, so I'm going to show you. It's a Gill Getter Fishing Cruise 713 by Apex Marine. And the nice thing about it is it looks like a really big pontoon boat in my videos, but it's really not. It's 7 feet by 13 feet, and as you can see here, I'm towing it very easily with a Kia Sportage. The trailer, the boat, the motor, everything weighs less than 1,500 pounds, so you can tow this thing with a car. You don't need an SUV or a truck. This boat is great for my family because I have 2 small kids. It allows me to keep the boys penned in and safe while we're out fishing. My wife calls it a floating playpen.
Hey Tommy buddy, come here.
On this lake, the big catfish live off of shad and bluegill, so those are the baits that I'm going to be using. I like shad because they're easy to catch and you can get a bunch of them very quickly, but they die in the live well very quickly. So I need some bluegill too because I'm doing an overnight trip. What I'll do is I'll get about 10 or 12 bluegill, and then the rest of my bait will be shad. I'll use the shad first because the bluegill can survive to the end of the trip. In colder weather, the shad will last all night long, and so I don't worry about this in the wintertime.
That is pretty crowded in there. I think we're done. Let's get out of here.
Let's do the storm cover.
Get on the lake and get ourselves some catfish.
That's a big catfish.
Oh yeah. You ready to go fishing, Tommy?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Alright, buddy. You ready to drive?
I have 8 LED floodlights installed on my boat. I have 2 sets on the bimini which illuminate the deck, and I can turn 2 of them on or all 4 of them on at once. I can articulate them and point them in any which way I want, and they're super cheap and very easy to install because you don't need a relay because they only draw about 1.1 amp per pair. They're not that expensive. They're about $30 for a set of them. And I've got a set on the side to illuminate the water, which is good for when I'm driving or fishing. And I've upgraded the docking lights with high power LED floodlights. It's all controlled with a control panel here on the captain's chair that I installed. And I've got a bright LED anchor light, which is good for seeing what you're doing and also for safety. As far as finding shad, I use my fish finder at night, and you look in the shallows and they're kind of spread out and you can see them right there on the fish finder. But in the daytime, you don't need the fish finder. You can just see them. Just go out when it's calm and look for these ripples. Throw your net, it's perfect. The net I'm using is a 10-foot cast net. It's got 1-inch mesh, and it's got about 1 pound per foot, so it's a 10-pound net. This is about as big as you want to go. I'm a tall guy. I'm about 6'5", and this is just barely able to handle this net. It's any more than that, it gets really cumbersome on a boat. You see me dumping my shad on the deck, but if you dump them straight into the live well and minimize how much you handle them, they live a little bit longer. Additionally, putting rock salt in your live well can also help the shad live a little bit longer.
Yeah, that is quite the live well. I think we got 20-30 fish in there. You're ready for an all-nighter.
When fishing for catfish on a lake, anchoring is a real problem. There's no current to keep your boat straight with 1 anchor, so you need a 2-anchor system. I throw one 28-pound anchor off the front with 100 feet of rope, and then I back up the boat till the rope is tight. Then I throw the second 28-pound anchor off the back with 60 feet of rope, and then I pull the front rope until both lines are tight, and then I tie off both lines. It keeps you rock solid and straight. When fishing with live bait, I like to hook the fish behind the dorsal fin about a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch into the meat. I don't wound the fish or trim their fins or any of that stuff. They don't need any help looking wounded.
Got one for me?
Yeah, I got one.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. You're good at that.
Yeah.
I prefer using live bait over cut bait because it's the best bait if you want to catch all 3 species of big catfish. The biggest problem with live bait is that you lose a lot of fish, so you need to pay attention to your rod tips. I use bells to help me do that. These are homemade bells I made from alligator clips. I'll put a link to a video on how to make these in the description. When you're fishing with a kid, you can't watch your rod tips all the time, so these bells really allow you to keep an ear out for the fish while you're doing other things. Some people like to use glow sticks when fishing at night to illuminate their rods, but me and Tommy think there's better uses for them.
You want to reel it? Go for it, Tom. Yeah, you got him? You keep at it, Tom. Oh. Yeah, I got a catfish too, Tom.
I got one.
Oh, no, mine's off.
Like this.
All right, Tommy, you got him. Keep reeling, Tommy. You got this guy.
I got that.
Okay, first fish of the day. Okay, you got him?
Oh, he's green.
Yeah, you want to put him back?
I know.
Do you want Daddy to put him back?
I can do
Okay,
it.
come on. Here, help Daddy.
Is that?
Here, push him in.
I love this little tent. It just pops up so easy. It's perfect size for Tommy, fits right on the boat. That tent's worth every penny I paid for it. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get more information about it. The second fish we caught was a flathead, and flathead are kind of squirrely. They grab the bait really subtly and like to just gently swim off with it instead of pouncing on it like a blue catfish. Because of this, I see way more flatheads get gut hooked. Most catfish will survive being gut hooked as long as you remove the hook gently. So I'm going to show you how to do it. With this fish, I put my hands down its throat all the way into the stomach, and you rotate that circle hook out. You do not pull it out. You rotate it out gently and use your fingertips to work the stomach off the hook barb. When you do this, you may notice that some of the catfish's stomach is in its throat. Push the stomach back into position and use your nose. You can tell whether you've torn the stomach by smelling the fish's mouth. If you smell a bile smell coming out of its mouth, then you've probably torn the stomach. If you only smell fish, it's probably going to live. As soon as you unhook the fish, put him in the net and let him breathe in the water for a little while. Letting the fish rest in the net for a few minutes will also let you know whether or not he's going to be okay or whether you should keep him and eat him.
Those are his whiskers. There you go.
I have a lot of people ask me why I throw so many catfish back, and the answer is simple. First off, if I'm going to keep a catfish, I'm only going to keep a little one because it tastes better. Not necessarily because bigger ones don't taste as good as small ones, but because bigger ones result in leftovers, and leftovers never taste as good as fresh fish. So I'd rather catch a small fish regularly than catch one big fish or a whole bunch of fish and then have a bunch of frozen stale catfish in my freezer. I also catch and release because I've got tons of smoked fish in the freezer, and I've got no business killing more fish until I've eaten what I already got. Additionally, I catch and release because I catch a lot of catfish. It's not uncommon for me to get 100 pounds of fish in 1 week. Even if I could eat all that fish, it would wipe out my favorite fishing spots, and I don't want to do that. I want Tommy to be able to fish these same spots that I do. Alright, so let me talk to you a little bit about when to go fishing. When it's warm out, about an hour before sunset to an hour or so after sunrise is the best time to go fishing. And additionally, the moon cycles make a big difference. On full moons, the fishing is not as good. This is a moonless night. We've got a new moon, and it set before the sun did, and it's rising after the sun rises. So this is a moonless, clear, dark as dark night. Perfect time to go catfishing in the summertime. And as you can see, we are just crushing it, getting fish after fish, blues, flatheads, channels. We're getting the whole trifecta.
You can get back in your tent? Oh, here, let me help you in. There you go.
As the night wore on, my shad were dying in the live well and I had to pull them out, but they still work really good dead. You'll notice that I found a spot on this lake, I parked the boat, and I sat in the same spot all night long. Well, part of that's because the action was good, but this is a legitimate strategy in the summertime at night. The fish are extraordinarily active, and so you can sit and wait for them to come to you, as opposed to the wintertime or the daytime, where you got to hunt around and find them more. On lakes, I try to set up in locations that have lots of bait fish, lots of shelter like sunken logs and holes and rocks. Shallow flats next to deep channels is a real ideal spot when night fishing on a lake. When night fishing, the bugs can be horrendous in the summertime. You notice in the beginning of the video, the bugs were just like everywhere. But as it gets cool, the bugs disappear, and by the end of the night, there was just hardly any around. But I still like to use a little mosquito netting to keep the bugs off my face when I'm sleeping. You'll notice that all the fish I'm catching are pretty decent size, all 4 or 5 pounds or higher. This is 100% because of the bait I'm using. Live bait attract big fish. And if I were to be throwing stink baits or corn or worms, I'd be catching lots of little 1-pounders, 2-pounders. I might catch some big guys too, but I'm going to get a lot of the runts mixed in there. If you use live bait, you either catch nothing or you catch big catfish. It's kind of a all or nothing sort of strategy. And when it's late at night like this, I don't want to wake up for anything less than 5 pounds, that's for sure. So I use live bait and lots of it. I had a problem with snapping turtles over on this rod. I kept watching the line drift off like something had it, like a flathead. But when you'd reel in the bait, there'd be big chunks missing out of it. Usually the head would be bitten off. That's a sure sign that you've got snapping turtles. Catfish don't do that to bait. And there's nothing else in the water except for snapping turtles that do that. When a snapping turtle starts taking my bait, I start casting to new places because I do not want to mess around with trying to unhook a snapping turtle.
Good farty. Was that you, Farty? What, it was you? Well, there you go.
By the time morning came, I was down to a half dozen bluegill and a few dead shad, so I cut my shad up to make them go a little bit further. Cut up shad is a great bait for channel catfish and blues, but the flatheads really prefer live bait. Okay, this was a really fun fish. I was reeling in my bait to check it, and I got a few cranks in, and I thought I might have felt a tap. So I just kind of let it sit, and sure enough, bam, bam, right there. We got another hit. So I gently lift it up to see if the fish is on. Nothing. So I let it sit a little bit, crank it just 1 or 2 turns, let it sit, feel another tap, and just kind of lift the rod. Nothing yet. You don't want to set the hook with circle hooks, so you just gently lift the rod. And if you feel any tension, then pull and reel hard. But reeling a dead bait across the bottom is a great way to catch catfish. Now, that just happened unintentionally here, but if I'm fishing a lake with a 1-rod limit, it's a great way to cover a lot of ground without a lot of rods. And you get some real feisty fish too.
Oh, maybe not.
You like the swim too.
Yeah. Look at that. That is a fat channel cat. Man, he was a fighter. Whew. Every video I do, somebody asks me what rods and reels I'm using. So I'm using the Whisker Seeker 7-foot medium heavy action rods. They're 1-piece rods. I've got the Okuma Trios 55S, and I've got 40-pound braid spooled on them. I'll put a link in the description to a video where I did a review of these rods. Additionally, if you want to know the rig I'm using, I'll also put a link to a video where I tell you how to do the rig I'm using in this video. Oh, That's fish. Wow. Oh, that's a chunky one.
I want to be the field day.
Come in the video.
Oh, oh. Its mouth is so dark inside. He has this hat.
Open the gate or push it.
Man, I burned through a lot of bait on this trip. But fortunately for these few remaining bluegill, they got to go home. And so did we. So we pulled up anchor and headed home. This was actually on a weekday, so I went home and got dressed and went to work. But it was a fabulous way to spend a weekday night fishing with my son. Well, at any rate, I hope you liked this video. If you'd like to see more great videos, we've got a playlist with all of our videos about how to catch catfish and catfishing tips. I've also got a playlist with all my favorite catfish bait videos. If you like what you see, don't forget to click subscribe to get new videos every week. Thanks for watching.